The Essene Gospel of Peace actually teaches that there are 7 angels of the Heavenly Father, 7 angels of the earthly mother, and each angel really just means like a divine force or power of God. And if you commune with these powers on a regular basis, you develop more capacity to channel and manifest these powers. So the angel of water, communing with the angel of water gives you healthier blood. Healthier blood translates to healthier everything, right? If you commune with the angel of air, you're doing breath work more regularly, and that oxygenation has a whole bunch of health benefits. And your oxygen pathways continue to get more efficient, and so on and so forth. And so by eating the foods of the earth and communing with the elements of earth, these people, 100% without any doubt, were living well over 100 years old for a very long time, by the way, not just in the first century. And I think that says a lot about the power of these practices. And I think personally, it's just so cool that we still have a few surviving ancient historical attestations that, yep, just as the Dead Sea Scrolls reveal, just as Josephus and Philo alluded to, there was an Essene group of mystical Jews out in the Transjordan region who were practicing this remarkable form of ancient Kabbalism. And that the Kabbalism we have today is kind of a later rendition of this ancient Essene type Judaism.
Cam, didn't you mention that Szekely's wife is still alive and she's like 104?
Yeah, last I checked, you can follow their page on Facebook. Szekely, in his later years, moved from, I believe he was in California for a long time, or Arizona somewhere, maybe New Mexico, but somewhere in the Southwest. And they moved to Mexico, and they started a place called Rancho La Puerta, where they allowed people to come do extended fasts and, heal their body and learn from their ways. And his wife, he ended up passing away in Orosi, Costa Rica, which, funny enough, I've been to Costa Rica a lot the past number of years since COVID, because I'm looking to move down there. And I spent some time in Orosi, and I can see why a guy like Szekely would wind up there, because there's just this gigantic river flowing through there that's got the most clean, pristine, and probably the coldest water in Costa Rica, because it's coming off of the highest mountain there in Costa Rica and down through the plains. So for someone who clearly, wants to commune and baptize themselves daily and all of that, Orosi would be a good place to do it. So he passed away there, but for many, many years before that, he was a part of Rancho La Puerta in Mexico, and his wife survives him. She's there. And yeah, last I checked on their Facebook page last year, she was 104 years old, celebrating her birthday, looking peppy, sitting up, hanging out with people. So I want to follow up and see how she's doing now, but this was just a year ago. And I would love to add to this too, coming off of the idea of the invocation of these angels and this kind of slander from Epiphanius. I think we see a lot of that still even today. I think you'll see over time that as we discuss this material, that same spirit of dismissal is going to come through, where it's making this out to be some kind of, like ritual that has other implications than what it literally just is, which is learning from the elements, the purest elements of nature and creation that God created. So if you're someone who's coming from, more of a Christian fundamentalist background like I do, you can come up to this information and be a little bit weird because it starts to sound like nature worship or this or that. But what we were talking about recently is, the angels, Raphael, Michael. I don't know if this is going to be in the presentation or not, but the different angels, Raphael, Michael, Uriel, and Gabriel. What's the other one? Gabriel. They're all associated with these same elements. Four different angels that are associated with these different elements. Jesus speaks a lot of fire, water. Air, he speaks of this stuff in his language in the Gospels. What I see it as is much in the same way today that we've talked about on this podcast, and we just see around us that there's this insurgence in the kind of biohacking community of cold plunging. You mentioned breath work, of sun, getting out in the sun. Everybody's having conversations right now about
all the stuff the Essenes were doing.
Right? It's like get out, get in the sun. And then what? Angel of Earth, grounding. Everyone talks about you got to take your shoes off, ground out on the earth. And
And
what
even
does
just
the
eating
word,
organic.
right? And what does the word angel actually mean? That's a English iteration of the word messenger. They're
Yeah.
literally, what they're saying is, hey, commune with, meaning get in the water, get in the sun, get in fresh air, ground your feet, and learn the messages. God has messages for you in these elements. That's what I think it really
Yeah.
means. I think a lot.
Connection is the idea.
Yeah. So I think there can be a misunderstanding when you hear this laid out this way because of the writings of Epiphanius and how this spirit of, dismissal has echoed through the ages. But yeah, I think so many people nowadays that are in this biohacking world would be surprised to learn they're probably living this way already in many
They're
regards. It's
practicing
just,
Essenism.
yeah, exactly.
And the proof is in the pudding. If you see someone who never gets sunlight, they don't commune with water, they don't bathe, or they're not drinking clean water, they're not eating healthy, their appearance and their vibration is going to be rather low. And then we have people who commune with these angels and they're centenarians. These are patterns that repeat themselves in different areas of the world and different cultures where people are very healthy. My question is, does God want us to be healthy? Does God want us to live a long time? Does God want us to have vibrant energy so we could be of service? Of course. So
Yeah.
what I love about this Essene Nazarene path is that it's completely reasonable. It's not like, woo woo up in this, like this is rational spirituality in my eyes.
Very grounded.
Yes.
Yeah. It's grounded in natural law. And the principles we know now are the bedrocks of human health. And I even want to just tackle for a second this idea of angel worship, nature worship, heresy. Let's just talk about how ridiculous that is. And okay, you tell me God created the entire universe. So literally the fingerprints of the creator are everywhere we look in nature. And you're telling me I should ignore nature and say, no, I won't see God in nature. God is not in God's creation. I will just read this book and what, the priest tells me to think about it. And that's where I'll find God, but not in what God created. That sounds silly. There is no closer place to go to commune with God than God's creation. Nature is a living oracle of the creator. And this is also an aspect of spiritual awareness, right, guys? That many people, and I think largely due to all of the flesh consumption and it's the effects of the spiritual disconnection it causes, prevents people from being able to perceive the divine and the sacred in nature. But there's a reason why nature is medicine, right? There's a reason why they take depressed people out into nature and have them sit with trees for hours a day and things like this, and get into the river and, play with animals and stuff, because nature heals, because nature is an aspect of God. And so nobody would deny that there are unique individual powers that God has established in creation. We call them the laws of physics, all kinds of stuff. But let's just take my own body, for example. Would even a good fundamentalist Christian deny that there's a certain power or intelligence in my body that's beating my heart? And I don't have to think about it. Some other power, God's power, obviously, is doing that for me. And while there's a power beating my heart, there's another power doing something altogether different. It's down here in my gut, digesting my food and breaking down the nutrients and sending them into the cells and the mitochondria. And that's different from the power that expands my lungs and breathes the oxygen and turns it into carbon dioxide. There's all these different powers that make my body act as one unit. And there's powers like this in nature, the power of the sun, the moon, the weather, the water. There's powers everywhere. And so you're telling me it's evil to acknowledge that God established certain powers over creation? I think that's silly. I think it's very righteous and it's very spiritually beneficial to acknowledge natural law and the way that God made the universe to function. And that's all that the Essenes were doing. They were strict monotheists. But what do you get in a universe where there's only one being and one creator? Everything's God. So you can say that the water is an expression of God. The sun is an expression of God. Of course, the sun isn't the exclusive and only God. They don't worship the sun. the way that Christians worship Jesus, right? But it was a oneness-based spiritual philosophy.